Hi, I'm Claire and this is Craig, and a few months ago we finished converting this van into a campervan. Up until now we've been charging our batteries while we drive and also using an electric hookup. But today we're going to be making a little upgrade to our campervan. We're going to be adding solar power. It's actually something that we've wanted to do all along, but when we were doing the van conversion back in winter, it wasn't really a priority because we wouldn't be getting much sun, and also it wouldn't have been a very pleasant job to do back then either. But now that the weather is much better, we're finding that we are using quite a lot more power from our fridge because of the hot weather. It needs to use more power to keep it cool, and also we'd like to be able to stay still for a longer period of time without having to worry about needing to drive so that we can charge up from our alternator. So today we're going to be adding it. We're going to be using flexible solar panels, which are not really as good as the rigid ones. Generally they're a bit less efficient and they also have some problems with being too hot. Regardless, we're still going to be using the flexible ones because they're much thinner, and with the height of this van at the moment it's just about small enough to go under a load of height barriers, and we'd like to maintain that. So we're going to be going for these small ones just to keep the roof height lower, because there is a big issue normally with ventilation and heat not being able to escape from underneath. We're going to be using a sheet of polycarbonate underneath the solar panel and then sticking that on the roof rather than sticking the solar panel straight on the roof. And that should help to add a bit more ventilation and hopefully stop or at least minimise the overheating issues. We're just going to remove this front roof panel down here because we need to drill a hole in the roof to feed the wires through. So we're going to remove the roof panel now so that we can see clearly where we're cutting and then also get the wire when it comes through. I've just drilled 2 holes in the roof now, which is where the wires are going to pass through, and then I've put some rubber grommets in the roof to protect the wire from the sharp edge of the roof and also for some waterproofing. And then the next thing to do is to feed the wires through these holes here, and they're going to come out here, and then stick this box down, which is going to be another layer of waterproofing. So we've pushed the wires through now. I've been pushing them down and Craig is inside and he's been pulling them through from the other side. But before we stick the box down, we're first going to do the panels to make sure that the right amount of wire has been pushed through. It'll probably be easier to do that after we've put the panels on, so we know the wire, and it'll be easier to push them in than with the box on. But now I'm going to give the roof a good clean to make sure that we've got a good clean surface to help the glue to stick best. I've just taped up this area here, which is where the first panel is going to go, and then I'm going to put some sealant down now inside this area with the tape, and then we'll be ready to stick the panel down. We've now got both of the panels glued down, but we're also going to be using another method, some tape, to hold it down as well. Now you're actually supposed to be able to use either of these methods standalone, but we want to have them both for a bit of extra security, peace of mind that the solar panel is not going to go flying off. And the second thing about the tape, rather than just having the glue alone, is it's going to stop the wind getting under it. The sealant has mostly dried now, so we're now going to put the tape on. We finished sticking the solar panels on the roof last night in the dark, so I'll show you now what we've done. We also drove it to an MOT this morning, and the solar panels are all still there, all still stuck down, so that's positive. While I was up on the roof sticking the solar panels down, Craig was inside the van running some of the wires.
The wires from the solar panel come out here above this roof panel. I then run them down behind this trim here. The positive wire, I've drilled a hole in the side of the trim into the electrical cupboard where I'm going to fit a fuse, and the negative wire I've run all the way down and out the bottom of the trim. So now all that's left to do is to fit the fuse in the electrical cupboard and then run both wires to our solar charge controller, which is underneath the driver's seat.
We have run all of the wires now into our solar charge controller. It was a bit of a faff doing this because we had to take off the seat and the seat base as well so that we could get underneath the floor to run the wires underneath without having to have them on show. So that was a bit of a faff, but we eventually did that, connected them all up to the solar charge controller, and then we've connected them to the circuit breaker in this cupboard here. So it's very cloudy at the moment, so we weren't really sure whether we were going to get any power from the panels or not, but we've connected them up and we are getting a 2 amp positive reading. We're not expecting to get a huge amount of power from these panels because we do only have 2 130 watt panels, and they are the flexible variety, which is less efficient. On top of that, we're in the UK, which doesn't always have that much sun. But what we are hoping is that we'll get enough power from the panels just to compensate for the power that the fridge is using, so at least when we leave the fridge on, hopefully it won't just slowly drain our battery and we're not going to end up with a flat battery. We've had these solar panels installed for over a week now, and most of that time it's been pretty overcast, but our batteries are now 89% charged, which is pretty good considering that we've left the fridge and everything on the whole time, and we haven't plugged it in at all, and we haven't hardly driven either. So most of that charge has come from the solar panels, which is great because that's exactly what we wanted them for.
We're now off to the Isle of Wight, and the forecast is brilliant sunshine for pretty much the whole time we'll be there, so that'll be a true test of how well the solar panels are performing. So we'll see you in the next video.